Well, there comes a time in every flower farmer's year when you sort of come to and realise how untidy everything has got. And for me, it's always around midsummer. We are nearly the end of June, and the solstice is a week gone. And suddenly, I have pretty much got this year's planting done. Well, I have got this year's planting done. And it's this weird feeling you kind of fall off a cliff, sleep very heavily for a few days, and then wake up and realise how untidy the place is. I mean, we have nettles on purpose because of the butterflies, but it had got to the stage where I couldn't even walk down to the bottom to harvest my perennial phlox without being stung to bits. So I thought I'd do a little clip today on our seed sowing schedule. We do have Flower Farmers Year workshops, which are online workshops. They're a couple of hours session, and I really take you through day by day how I work out my Flower Farmers Year in such a way that you can then extrapolate from that and work out your year. Long experience. We've been running a flower farm here for 12 years now. Long experience teaches me that the more scheduling you do, the more you strategize your timings, the much more you can get done. Or in my case, I'm not trying to necessarily build a business so it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. What I'm trying to do is make a business that suits me. And I think that at the end of the day, ideally, I will have earned enough money that I can, as I did last evening, walk around the garden with my friend, who's another nursery woman from in the village, plants at BA9. She's having a break at the moment, but she's a very good grower. She and I walked around the garden with a glass of wine and had a real good old catch up, looked at the roses, literally stood still and smelled the roses. So that's what I'm trying to do with my lifestyle business, is to make sure I've got time to do that. And the more I strategize my time, the more I am careful about how I work, the better I get at it. Anyway, so I'm going to give you my seed sowing schedule, and you'll see how it goes now that I've done this year. And I may reflect a little bit on the business of flower farming as I walk around. So come along. Yes, here are the nettles. Very important to have nettles because the vanessid butterflies need them as a place to lay their eggs. So have a nettle patch, everybody, as well as a garden. A garden isn't a garden if there's no room for the wild. Fabrizio calls this the tithe to nature. There you go. I call it very untidy, but also tithe to nature. Right, come on, enough of this. Let's go and have a look at the seeds and how they've spent the year in the ground or not. Obviously, we don't just grow plants from seed. We have a nice selection of shrubs and perennials as well. But today's clip is about seed sowing. I'll save a full tour of what goes on up here for another day. And don't forget the dahlias, also in the ground. Or should I say dahlias? Dahlias. Dahlias. No, this is about seed sowing. So it's only a little bit of what we do. But if I can strategize that a little bit and make it work for me, then it's worth doing, I think. Anyway, goodness, it's windy. So this is my completely out of control big tunnel. I am cropping hard from this at the moment. I'm pretty much the only person who's allowed in here because I know how to get through it. But there comes a time for me with my polytunnels where they get completely out of control. This tunnel has my first hardy annuals crop in it. And these are slowly coming to an end. By mid-end of July, I won't be cropping in here. This crop is sown at the end of September. Some people sow much earlier there for overwintering. End of September suits me. So this lot went in at the end of September, and there are about 7 varieties in here. There are Larkspur, Ami, Wild Carrot, Chinese Forget-Me-Not, Snaps, Baplurum, and Lavatera. This is a 70-foot by 20-foot tunnel. My ranunculus were in here also, and they have been overwhelmed by the hardy annuals. So here's crop 1. Moving on. This too is crop 1. This is my bitty first sweet pea crop. Actually, it came together in the end. And while it's not as abundant as I've had in the past, it's doing okay. But what are these big leaved plants underneath, you ask? They are Nicandra physiloides, or shoe fly plant to you. And these are self-sown, and they will slowly overwhelm the sweet peas. And what they produce are beautiful pale blue flowers, which I don't really cut. It is the seed heads I'm after, because they're really good for Christmas. And on the subject of seed heads, here, my white honesty has just gone over here, and all of these big seed heads are now ready for harvesting and bringing into the studio to hang up. But they are not about, that's a side issue. So crop 1 of my sweet peas, and the Nicandra physiloides is self-sown and is coming on, and I would probably count it as crop 3 because it doesn't germinate until well into tender annual season. I love them. They're like triffids. Here we have crops 2 and 3. So hardy annuals 2 and tender annuals 3. I sowed a hardy annual crop 2 on the 15th February, and in the greenhouse, and these are fiddly things that sometimes take a while to get going, and here they all are, things like the honeywort and the tall nicotiana, things like that on my second crop. And my third crop are my tender annuals. Things like my cosmos and my bells of Ireland. Crop 4. So the tender cosmos and bells of Ireland was sown in trays in early April. And some of them were sown as late as the 5th of May and were planted out on the 5th of June. I'll show you. We'll go for a little walk. My fourth crop is I've direct sown where there were gaps. Last week, 21st of June, I sowed the rest of my cosmos seed and some zinnias. I just filled up the gaps. And then still flowering here, because I've cut them back and all their side shoots are flowering, are last year's biennials, crop 5. This year's biennials were sown on a demo I did, which you can download if you go over to my website. You can get the biennials download by all means. And it is absolutely not too late to sow biennials. You can sow biennials till about halfway through July. I get them done around mid-June because then they're done. So last year's biennials, sown on or around the 15th of June, are foxgloves, sweet rocket, sweet William, wallflowers, Canterbury bells, and they're either flowering or have flowered. They're kind of over. And I have just sown them this year. So my crops go hardy annuals September, hardy annuals February, hardy annuals beginning of April, tender annuals May, biennials June. And then I fall off a cliff and I'm like, oh my goodness, everything is in the ground. Let's have a tidy up. Suddenly I feel as though I could, you do have a lot more time. It's the most busy time of year for a flower farmer, because it's just constantly keeping the seeds sown and watered and pricked out and planted out and watered and surviving, is, I'd say, from about mid-February to end of June. And I like, oh, now my dailies are in, everything's in the ground, all I have to do is look after the biennial seedlings, but that's only 11 trays, that's nothing. Let's have a tidy up. There are trays everywhere, there are lids everywhere. I mean, it's so untidy, but I feel as though everything's in the ground and I can now sort of enjoy the season, just cutting, cut, and cut again. Right, I'll take you for a little walk and show you what I've got. Over there we have the second sweet pea crop, which is just beginning to get going. It's not really there yet. And on the ground here, these are hardy-ish annuals, but these were sown quite early. The statice, for example, sometimes a bit fussy. Bells of Ireland, sometimes a bit fussy, but as you can see, they're going to be ready for cropping at the end of the season. The Chinese forget-me-not's been really slow this year, but anyway, it's suddenly galloping ahead a bit. I have feverfew everywhere, but I don't sow it specially. It's self-sown, and where it self-seeds itself, I look after it. I look after it and keep it. The foxgloves are biennials, so they're sown last June, but I've just cut them all back, and so the side shoots are beginning to flower. Here's an outside crop of Leonorus. Something horrible in the ground has killed off a lot here. Look at that. I suspect somewhere I have aminopyralid poisoning. However, these Nicotiana are self-sown from last year, so I'm not going to kick them out, I'll enjoy them. Here's a second Ami Majus crop. I don't grow too much of it outside because it goes over quite quickly. But it's just a bit of frost to keep me going into July, when my bronze fennel, which is a perennial, or seeds itself everywhere and keeps going for several years, does well for me. More lovely feverfew. These are Canterbury bells that were sown last June. Most of these are going to get harvested this week. Chopped back foxgloves with a little rain, they will have a nice time. This candy tuft, oh, isn't that gorgeous? That was sown in March. And here comes the Rudbeckia. I'm always keener with a nice thistle in the middle. Farewell, thistle. I'm always keener on the Rudbeckia than I am on sunflowers. For me, they work better in my work. The Nicotiana I love. I will admit I don't hammer it as a crop, but I do love it because I just love the colours and the scent. This is a variety called, I think, something sensation, I think. And I got the seed from Higgledy Garden. More seed heads from the Honesty to bring inside and hang up. Again, this was sown last June the 15th, 2021. Self-sown New Zealand dock, or Atriplex rubra, if you're looking for Latin. Not enormously thrilled with life-looking zinnias. They were sown on the 5th of May in trays, but I expect they'll get there in the end. Some nice late snaps there. And here come all the amaranthus, which I'm really very fond of. More snaps at the end. And look here. We had good rain over the weekend. So this is the cosmos that was sown last week on the 21st of June. So what I really like to do is have little and often. I do lots of little crops. I don't sow too much at a time. This is that lovely, it's a tall grass millet. Very nice. a bit more Ami Visnaga. I'm not an enormous user. I love calendula, but I don't use it enough, so I don't grow vast amounts of it. But I'm very, very fond of this monarda, which will be big enough to crop quite soon. And this purple person is new to me this year. Couvert, what is it? B, off the top of my head. Something Couvert, bat-faced Couvert, something. Cuphea. I got the seed from Chiltern Seeds. I'm very pleased with it. I think it's going to be a doer for me. And so there you see, we kind of work the ground quite hard, and lots of small crops, which I crop and crop and crop. Over there, bushing up nicely, cosmos, and then I have a little row of roses in the distance, because I quite often have to do online demos, and it means I can ping out here and get all the ingredients for an online demo in one easy, without having to go up to the top and drag my trolley far up the field. This is honeywort, which I really love. Look at these gorgeous spikes, and despite the size of the leaves, it is not floppy. It cuts really nicely, and the bees, clues in the name, love it. This is Vaqueria hispanica, sown on 15th February. Over, time to take it away. The wallflowers, over, time to take it away. We've cut the Sweet William back, and we'll see, we may get a little bit more of them, but possibly not. And that, my friends, oh yes, and look, so that green here, and I will keep these plants for next year and use them again. This is Sweet Rocket, so can you see the greenery down at the bottom? That'll be next year. And I have the purple one over there, which looks a bit Raggedy Ann because we've cut it so hard. So it's a good looking plot at the moment, and I'm very happy to say that I have finished sowing seeds for this year. I'll show you the biennials. There, next year's foxgloves. Finger for scale. They're really, really tiny. Not quite big enough to prick out yet. So there are 11 trays of biennials here, and they represent, I always think when I've sown my biennials, then I have committed to growing flowers for a living for another year. Even that you can, I keep coming down and looking at tiny little seedlings. Look, tiny. They're coming. So there you have it. That's my seed sowing schedule. End of September, February, end of March, end of April, beginning of May, mid-June, 5. And then this at the end of June, towards the end of June for me, when there's a little bit of space and I've got some seed left, I will throw the leftover cosmos in the ground and let it do what it likes. It is just an added bonus. Look, I'm going to show you something lovely. It's been knocked off the tree. This is a Shropshire lad. A lovely, lovely peachy coloured rose. They're my favourites, and we grow them through this arch here, which they're not enormously floriferous, and I don't really cut them. And the reason they're not enormously floriferous is because they're very much shaded out by the rest of the hedge. But they glow against the hedge and then get blown off. It is windy. Anyway, there you go. There's my seed sowing. Do come, though, on the Flower Farmers Year workshop, because we cover everything from dahlias to roses to bare root planting to ordering. And we make it so that your year is clear as day, and so that your flower farming life or your flower growing life fits around your life. It is very easy as a flower farmer to lose sight of your actual life, because it is one of those jobs where one can be incredibly busy and rather held to ransom by the flower farming job. And so the more you can strategize it and systematize it, the more time you will have to do other things and hopefully make a living while you're at it. Anyway, thanks very much for coming along. If you found any of the tips and tricks in this useful, please do buy me a coffee. The link is in the blurb to all my clips. Please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon, and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. Yes, I do look rather wind blown. Anyway, thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon. Bye. I know, I seem to be making a video every day at the moment, but I think that's something to do with the fact that I sort of got that mid-season hiatus. Tomorrow I've got a whole nother one in my head that I'm going to do while I'm cutting for a school ball, as you do. I thought tomorrow I'll do all about the Flower Farmers Week and how I strategize my time, especially during busy seasons. But anyway, enjoy this. I'm now giving my buckets a mid-season scrub. Never a dull moment here at Common Farm Flowers, I can tell you. Come on, let's get on.